Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to 501st, and today's the day. I'm going to be reviewing, or should I say previewing, the Rinoceronte. I've got some gameplay in it on the common test, and I'm going to do a breakdown for you. I'm really excited, so let's just jump right into the breakdown. So I have it on TanksGG, which is an amazing website, super useful, and they have the public test server. So I have it laid out. I have the Rinoceronte, so this is all with like 100% crew and advanced configuration. I'm pretty sure all these tanks only have one gun though. But the Rinoceronte, I have the Krangvong and the T57 Heavy and the AMX-50B. Those are all tier 10 heavy autoloaders that are, because there's not a lot of auto reloaders other than the Progetto 65 and the Rinoceronte at tier 10. So I also slapped the Progetto 65 in there. So I have it up against another auto reloader that's a medium tank and three heavy autoloader tanks. So let's just jump right in, and you basically start off with the worst statistic on the Rinoceronte, and that is the DPM. As you can see, it's so much lower than all of the other tanks, even significantly lower than Progetto 65, which also has a auto reloader, a lot less than the Type 57 Heavy, who has 3,200 DPM, and the Krangvong, it's just very awful DPM. So it's going to be a really tough aspect for the Rinoceronte to get through, because, and also this DPM, this is if you're just firing one shell and then reloading that shell and then firing one shell and then reloading that shell. Let's say, for instance, you fire two shells, your DPM is going to go down. So the highest DPM that you can get is if you fire one shell and then you wait, then until that shell is reloaded again, then you fire again, then you wait till it's reloaded again, and then at the end of the minute, you fire off all your shells. And that's how you can get the highest DPM. But then your next minute, you have to reload your whole, it's a whole thing. Really bad DPM, so that's going to be pretty tough for this tank to get through. Now, pen is actually good for this tank. It's tied with the Progetto 65 for 268, which is better than all the autoloader tanks, so it's very good. It also has some very good, let me go back to my comparison. It has some very good APCR rounds right here. It has 268 pen, 490 damage, and as you can see, it has very, very fast shell velocity at 1,452. This is faster than most other heavy tanks, so this will allow you to have that kind of like medium tank accuracy like the Progetto 65 does, so you don't need to give a ton of lead like you might need to on the Krangvong or the AMX-50B. So the ammo is really good for this tank since it has a 127 caliber gun, which is a lot bigger than the autoloaders and a lot bigger than the Progetto 65s. Its HE rounds are actually really powerful. As you can see right here, 640 damage, which is just, that's going to kill almost every single tier 10 arty, and also deal some very, very substantial damage to some tier 8, or actually not just tier 8, but any light tank in general, especially because you have 127 pen. That's enough to go through basically every light tank, at least in the hull. So those will really help you out when you're fighting SPGs, or when you're fighting light tanks, or when you're just fighting lightly armored medium tanks. But it is kind of annoying because you can't just reload. You can't, like, let's say you have 3 APCR rounds, you fire one, then you can't just reload a HE round as your third one. You have to reload your whole clip. All of your clip is always going to be the same ammo. So if let's say you're going into battle, you have 3 APCR shells, then you see that there's a couple light tanks that are coming your way, so then you double tap the 3 key to reload your HE, but then it resets all of your shells, and you need to wait 45 seconds before you're all the way reloaded. So it's going to be really tough for this tank to use that ammo that it has to really get past those light tanks and the SPGs, and then load the heat or the APCR to fight the heavies. So that's going to be a struggle for this tank. So the rate of fire is a lot less, not even 4 rounds per game. And that's really tough for this tank because it has that high alpha, much higher than all the other tanks, but only 50 higher than the Krangvong. So it's high alpha. You're not really going to be able to do that much with it because you can barely even fire off 4 rounds per minute. Unlike the 8 that you can fire in the Type 57 Heavy, or the 7 that you can fire in the Krangvong. So the reload time on this tank, it doesn't really show it very well here because this says it has 15 seconds, so I'm going to jump over here real quick. So the first shell that you reload is going to take 20 seconds to reload. Then your second one is going to take 16.5 seconds to reload. Then your last one is going to take 15.4 seconds to reload. So all in all, that's like, I believe, 45 seconds or so to reload all your shells. And that's a lot of time. So the clip size on this tank is 3. It's less than the Progetto 65 and a couple other tanks, but the same as the Krangvong. And that gives it a very substantial clip damage, but it also has 4-second intra-clip reload. So this tank isn't really meant for bursting. It takes 8 seconds to fire off all 3 rounds, and unlike how in the Type 57 Heavy in 6 seconds you can burst off 4 rounds for 1,600 damage. So this thing might not be for bursting, but you can fire off your rounds faster than you can in like an STB-1 and stuff like that. I already went over the caliber and the shell velocity. It doesn't have that much ammo, which is going to be tough because it does have some really good ammo choices. And if we move on to the gun handling section, you see that it only has 1.92 second aim time. So this is going to be really great for this tank. This will allow it to get those snapshots, and you don't have to spend forever aiming like in other autoloaders, or even the Progetto 65, the other auto reloader. So this is a very good aspect of the tank, the aim time. The dispersion values are also better than all of the other tanks, and you're thinking, hey, this thing must be a pretty good gun handling and stuff like that. But then you move on to the moving and the tank traverse, and this stuff is just very bad. Moving is almost 0.3, way worse than all the other tanks. Tank traverse 0.3 as well, way worse than all the tanks. Turret traverse 0.13, worse than all of them except the Type 57 Heavy. And firing, it's almost at 6, which is so much worse than all the other ones. So that's going to be very tough for this tank. All of these gun handling things that Wargaming kind of made to hold back the Rinoceronte. I think they didn't want this to become another OP tank or branch like they did maybe with the Progetto 65, because that's a pretty overpowered branch. They didn't want to add anything OP, so they cut down the DPM a huge amount, and they cut down the dispersion values a lot so that it can't, like, that makes it so it can't really be that medium heavy tank hybrid that they made it seem like it was going to be, because it doesn't have the DPM where it can roll around with the mediums and trade equally with them. It has kind of the lower DPM. You kind of need to be a support role. You can't really go one-on-one with tanks. And then they cut down its dispersion values a lot. So that's going to make it really tough for it to put in the snapshots that the medium tanks can do with fairly a lot of ease. So that's going to make it very tough for this tank to be competitive with medium tanks. Now it also has 10 degrees of gun depression, which is very good for this tank, and 15 degrees of elevation, which is also pretty good. So now I'm going to move on to the mobility. Now this, I don't know, it's good, but it's also bad. So 40 top speed, it's less than all of these faster heavies in the Progetto 65, but it's more than Type 57 Heavy. The T57 Heavy. Play too much Japanese tanks right now. But it's faster than a good amount of other heavy tanks. Reverse speed is 12. I don't know, this speed is pretty lackluster for a tank that's meant to be a heavy medium hybrid. It's not really going to be able to get into position with the mediums like the Progetto 65 will be able to do. Only has 15.5 specific power. Yes, that is pretty good, but when you only have 40 top speed, you're not going to be as fast as the mediums or the faster heavies, so I'm not sure. The mobility, it's really tough to explain. It's under the mediums and the faster heavies, but it's higher than the heavies. But that's right where you don't really want to be, because you can't really do either one very well, because it can't fight with the lower heavies because it doesn't have the armor or the gun, and then it can't fight with the higher ones because it doesn't have the speed, so it's kind of a tough spot right there. Its tank traverse and stuff is kind of slow, so this tank isn't going to be the most mobile thing ever. Its armor is pretty good. It has okay hull armor, pretty good frontal turret armor, and I'll look at the diagram of the armor with you in just a second. 2,000 hit points is not going to get it very much done like you can in the Type 57 Heavy and the AMX 50B. They only have a couple hundred more hit points, but hey, you don't know, that might save your life. It does only have 2,000 like the Krangvong though, and the Progetto 65 almost has as much as the heavy tank brother of its Italian tech tree branch. okay camo, and its view range is a little bit less than average, only 390, but that's about it. So now we're going to move on to the diagram of the tank, and then we'll hop into a replay. So over here, it has 268 pen, so I'm just going to keep it on this. And right away you see that this thing, yeah, it's not going to be a super heavy tank that you can just drive in and block all the shells. If they shoot you in the lower glasses plate, that's basically an automatic pen. And if they shoot you anywhere on the sides of the hull, they have about a 50-50 chance of going through. The sides of the cheeks have about 270 millimeters of armor, so that's about 50% of the time they're going to be going through. But then also at tier 10, a lot of people like to load gold, and if they do, then yeah, they're going to be going through you about everywhere. But if they do misfire a little bit, they could hit somewhere around here, and that could just bounce the shell, and that'll be really good for this tank, because I feel like you'll get those lucky bounces, and against lower tiers, this armor is actually going to be really, really powerful. So you might be like, oh, this thing might be good at side scraping. Well, I'm here to tell you, no, do not even try that, such a thing. Its hull is kind of like a IS-7 or something like that, where if you turn too much to this side, then it'll turn green. If you turn to the other side will turn green. So you can't really side scrape in this thing either. But what this tank is really meant to do is use its 10 degrees of gun depression, get on a ridgeline, and just use this OP armor right here. But then, if you see what I see right now, you see that it has this huge bump on the top of the gun right here. And that is going to be very tough, because let's say you're aiming down at some medium tank, and they aim right on here and then pen you, and then this whole red ricochet thing, they just bypass it quite easily, and you can't really use your armor. So what I've seen in a couple other videos and what people have suggested is after you fire, you just wiggle your gun up in the air. But what I would actually recommend doing is just roll back and forth a little bit, because unless you're in really close range, then you might want to raise your gun. But also, if you raise your gun, then they can pen right under here. So what you're going to want to make sure that you do is, let's say you raise your gun a little bit, then they can pen underneath. So what I would just do is, it's a really tough spot to hit. I've taken a few shots at it. They might get the occasional pen, but just roll back and forth a little bit, and you're pretty much fine. And so the armor layout is really just meant to be on a ridgeline, and I'm going to show you in the replay how it works on a ridgeline, how that DPM can hold you back, but also how that alpha damage in that pen can get you where you need to be right after this. Okay, so the first replay we are going to be watching is myself and JoJo798, who is another member of our clan in the Rinocerontes on Mountain Pass. So you're going to see, I chose this replay because it displays how I can use my gun depression, how I can use my turret armor, how I can use my different types of ammo, how I can use, but also how bad the DPM can sometimes be. So what I'm going to do is I'm driving into this position right over here so that I can use my gun depression on a ridgeline. And as you can see, I'm going to show you this this little thing that it shows for the Rinoceronte. So see these bars? The less bars there are, so like on the last bar right here, if you fire within that time, you'll get a 50% time compensation for your reload if you fire. And that's the neat thing about the Rinoceronte that's different from the medium tanks on the Italian branch. So as you can see, we only actually have 4 tanks that are coming into this position, and this Sheridan's already about halfway down his hit points, and JoJo has also been fired at a couple times. Oh wait, we have 5. We also have that Batchat 25T. So this is like the perfect position for the Rinoceronte right here, and you see it's super high alpha, 515 damage in that shell, and we'll be able to shut him down. And yes, we shut him down before he gets around that corner, and that pretty much sets up us for the game. Unfortunately, we lose the Sheridan right there, but now I can use my gun depression on this ridgeline and be able to fire through these bushes without them really being able to pen me. So right here I reload the heat rounds just in case the 60 TP decides to come around the corner, because he has some very powerful frontal armor that might be pretty tough to take down. And unfortunately, it looks like our team is kind of getting busted straight through the middle right here. Luckily I blocked that round from this Sturzfang 103B, even though it has about 400 meters, 300 meters of pen. I think it's 300 millimeters of pen. But another thing I want to show you is, see how bad this DPM is. I've barely even reloaded my second shell just now, and it seems like a minute ago that I was talking about reloading those heat rounds to go through the 60 TP. So you'll see that when I get into some close quarters combat a little bit later, then it's going to be kind of tough for me to be able to hang with the other heavy tanks and medium tanks that I come up against. So this Object 705 is kind of being a pain in the butt right now. I can't really pen his turret because he has some very well-rounded turret armor, and if we try to advance around the right edge, he might hinder us. But I'm pretty content staying right here, behind this ridgeline right here, and JoJo 798 is sticking right behind that rock right there. So now we're just kind of in the lull of this position. Fortunately, the Object 705 doesn't pen JoJo 798, and JoJo 798 pushes the husk of the Sheridan down the mountain, but he does get shot by the Sturzfang 103B, and I am able to pen one meaty round into the Sturzfang before it goes around the corner. And that puts me up to about 1,500 damage. And so now I have 3 shells reloaded now, an FE405. I really hope I'm not spotted here. I'm guessing I am not, so I am able to pen one into the front of the FE405's turret for 585 damage. Now that is an extreme high roll for the Rinoceronte. Its average damage is only 490, so I rolled for, 895 extra damage there, which is very, very high, about 5 less than you can go over the max, though. And this is pretty much the dream position for the Rinoceronte. There's not a lot of positions that you can get into like this that are just going to be ultimately unstoppable for this tank behind a bush, using your gun depression, using your frontal turret armor. And unfortunately, it looks like our team just lost 2 more tanks, so that puts us behind by 2 kills. And it's kind of odd. 4 of their tanks are grouped up around this position right here at their base. So we'll have to see how this unfolds right now. So our CS63 and the Batchat 25T ditched us a little while ago, so now it is me and JoJo 798 and our Rinocerontes holding up against 4 tanks, I believe, an Object 705, a 60 TP, a FE405, and a Sturzfang 103B. So this is a little bit of a tough position for the Rinoceronte, because if all 4 of them rushed us, since they have way better DPM than us, the 60 TP has better armor, I think the Object 705A does too, they would be able to easily overmatch us, but they poke around the corner, and I'm able to put 1 round into the Sturzfang, and you see that awful interclip, 1 more, and JoJo is able to shut him down right there, and I try to put my last round into FE405, but I miss, and the Object 705A has advanced around this position like so, and is able to pen a 662 damage heat shell into the side of my tank. Let me see where he penned there. Right into the side of the turret right there. So as you can see, this thing's turret armor isn't that great all around, so I think that's where I bounced the Sturzfang. So that was a kind of a lucky bounce, seeing as the Sturzfang has quite good pen. So right here, I'm reloading my shells, hoping that maybe I can take down this Object 705A. I peek around the corner, he misses his shot. I'm not sure why I don't rush here, because I'm going to in just a second. I missed that shell, but then I choose to rush when he could have reloaded, and I only have 1 more shell. Luckily, the FE405 and the 60 TP don't fire at me right there, and I'm able to advance on the Object 705A. He does pen in 1 more shell on me. I'm trying to find a weak point before we can reload. Will I be able to find one? And yes, I am able to shut him down. 536 damage. I got a high roll there, and I was able to shut him down, so that was actually pretty lucky. And now our team is down by 3 kills. And the CS63 right there doesn't look like he's going to last much longer. Let's see. And he is shut down. So I peek around the corner here, but it looks like I'm spotted, so I quickly shoot one at that FE405, but I miss, and I come back around the corner. So now it is a 2v6 scenario, so will we be able to pull through this one? We'll just have to find out. So I'm only at 3,500 damage right now, so it's a pretty mediocre round for the Rinoceronte, but a little bit better than average. So I don't want to peek out now, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be spotted through the bushes. I didn't spend a bunch of gold, so I don't have 6th Sense and stuff on this tank. And I'm able to shut the FE405 down right there, and it looks like the Object 430U has entered our base, and I don't see it right away, but there's a Guerrilla 15 approaching my other position. Luckily, he chooses to fire at Jojo798, and I'm able to recognize that he is right there. So I advance a little bit on his position. Luckily the 60 TP doesn't shoot me. I missed my shell right there though, and now there is an AMX 50B and a TVP both on me, and I am shut down. I am able to destroy the TVP before I am destroyed right there, but now it is down to Jojo and his Rinoceronte, and he's able to shut down the AMX 50B. So now it's 1v3 with with an Object 430U in the base. He bounces one there from the gorilla, and he can't see him right now. The 60 TP, I believe, is still in this position. He might have gone AFK because I haven't really seen him that much in this game. So Jojo's hiding behind this rock. He pokes out, and he's looking for the gorilla's 15. Looking back, he might have wanted to go back to the base, but he spots him, the gorilla. He pens one into him, and he gets hit by 712 damage shell right there, and that puts him down to a one-shot for every other tank that's on the map. He comes after the gorilla 15, and he peeks around the corner. Will he be able to shut him down? No, he misses his shell, but the gorilla misses his shell as well, so that leaves Jojo798 able to come around this corner and shut down the gorilla 15, and the 60 PP does not shoot him, and he backs up, and unfortunately the base is captured, but that is the end of this replay. Okay, so the next replay is me on Abby in my Rinoceronte. Jojo798 is not with me this time, and I'm going to speed up me heading on to my position right now. And as you can see, this long reload is long as ever right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to advance into this position up here, hoping that I can use my gun depression to kind of fend these guys off right here. And we're just going to have to see what ends up happening here. So the Rinoceronte, as you can see from the last round, if you get it into the correct position, it can be really, really powerful. But as you're going to see right here, that burst potential is not very great. I see this in Rinoceronte coming right here, so I want to hurry up and finish off the CS63. I low roll there, only 643 damage. I pen one more in, but only 665. I low roll both times, which means I have to put another shell in, and unfortunately the Rinoceronte is able to pen one shell into me right there. And luckily he only damages my track right there, and I'm able to get back into position. And now I need to hibernate for 45 seconds as I reload all my shells. And I tell the TVP thanks right there, so that he can, because he did support me quite a bit right there. So what I'm going to try to do is get behind this rock, so that if somebody pops around right here, right there, and pops out, then they hopefully won't be able to defeat me quite as easily as they would be able to if I was out in the open. So now that I know this 60P is coming to support me, I feel free to advance into this position. And in the comment test server, I feel like you see a lot of 60 TPs. I guess people hear about them a lot and they like them, but they don't want to have to grind down the tech tree. So you fight a lot of them in the comment test server. So I'm debating whether I should come out. I do end up coming out. I block one from the Rinoceronte. I pen one into his upper glasses plate, and I pen one more into his lower glasses plate and shut him down. And right here, I need to reload all 3 shells. I had a compensation. Oh wait, no, I just had to reload 2 shells right there, and I am able to have some backup from this Type 5 Heavy in the 60 TP, so that I can have some time to reload a shell. So the 60 TP is up on the hill right here. I thought he had fired right there. I thought that was him, so then I poke out right here to try to shut down the 60 TP. Unfortunately, he hadn't, and he destroys my ammo rack. I am able to pen one into the 60 TP, and he gets shut down. And the AMX 50B is on trying to get away, and I shut him down as well. Okay, so in the rest of this replay, there's only really one more part that I want to show you, and as you see right here, I'm reloading HE because a lot of their tanks are more lighter right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm following the 60 TP, hopefully going to be able to shut down a couple of their lighter vehicles over here. And it takes a while to reload all this HE, but I figured I had some time right here. And there is an FV405, a perfect time to test out this new HE on the Rinoceronte, and I'm going to see if I can pen or not, and it's all green, and I pen a 588 damage round right into the FV405, and spoilers, we go on to win, and I just don't want to show you anything else because I don't really do that much more in this replay. But I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you liked the Rinoceronte, if you think it's OP, if you don't think it's OP, then please leave a comment below and just tell me what you think about this tank. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.